Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational ED Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. If you're new to the program, these are all companies that I use as an athletic director. Yeah, they're sponsors, but I can also recommend them without reservation. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Wednesday Wisdom guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for their support. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders who support your program. And having that data in your hands, it's incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is changing the game for schools and organizations with their suite of solutions for things like digital ticketing, but it's not just ticketing anymore. They also have fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more. Whether you're an athletic director, a coach, or a school administrator, Hometown makes it easy for you to save time, raise more money, and bring your entire community together. For more information, just go to hometown.com. That's hometown.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Your students are on social media, and if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team is going to have you up and running in no time. And whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a win or an entire newsletter that shares all the great things that your program is doing, Gipper is professional graphic design made easy. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see all their great products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, communication. For me, their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com to find out more. That's it, homecampus.com. We want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com, and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of their units, whether it's a wall mount or a floor console in your gym lobby, in your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, for coaches, for sponsors, for your alumni, and more. You got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. And we want to thank our good friends at Snap. You know, have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. I'm telling you, it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out all of their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, snapraise.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting today with somebody I like to call a friend of the show. Regular listeners will recognize the name Jennifer Siess. If you're new to the show, Jen has an incredible background in all things athletics. Go back and Google her original interview. And she's also become a regular on Wednesday Wisdom. She's a college athlete. She's a coach. She worked in broadcasting, took a break, became a mindset, mental performance coach. And now they've brought her back in. She is a broadcaster for St. Louis City Soccer Club, also hosts radio sports segment. She's the host of Soccer Mom Sundays and a whole bunch of other things. Jen Cease, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Great to be here. I always love this segment. This is fun.
Well, again, your background gives you a tremendous perspective for our listeners who are primarily athletic directors and coaches. And, your topics are always among our most frequently downloaded. So no pressure. But what do you have on this segment of Wednesday Wisdom?
Well, hopefully this will be well received because I don't think it's going to come as any news. So, as you and I are recording, of course, I don't know when the podcast will drop, but it is Women's History Month. We've come off of in February, we had our National Girls and Women's in Sports Day. So, I felt like it was timely to talk about girls and women in sports. And even though I spent a lot of my time on the men's side of the game, I just came actually on a nice St. Louis City SC practice today. Practices are always fun when they win. So they recently beat LA Galaxy, and that was a fun thing to do, covering the men's side. Of course, as a former female athlete myself, I have a special love for the girls and the women's game. And so I thought about talking about the growth of the game. And it could be any game, not just soccer. You see it in basketball, of course, with the WNBA. You see it. I saw recent news that flag football for girls might be an NCAA sport, which is so exciting. Man, I wish that was around when I was playing. I think I would have had so much fun and probably would have been a better soccer player learning those movements of flag football. But us as parents, as coaches, as athletic directors, talking about us keeping on taking an active role in growing the game for our girls who will become women who hopefully play for as long as we can and continue in the sport and continue with maybe coaching and mentoring and things like that. And two ways I thought about doing that. One is status quo, and two is taking an active role. And so let me talk a little first about the status quo. There are times I think that, that status quo, that the way things have always been, what's that quote? The worst phrase in the human language is we've always done it this way. Whoever was a smart, some president, I think Jake maybe said that, I don't know. But we've always done it this way. And it's a nice, comfortable thing to do. So sometimes the disservice that comes to girls and women in sports doesn't always have to do with a current mindset of we don't think that it should have the appropriate time or attention. It comes from things from the past. And I have two examples of that just occurred here in Missouri. So just last week, our St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame had its annual induction dinner, had over 1,000 people come, which is the highest number they've had since the pandemic. So great to see so many people you've either played with or were coached by or was your arch enemy on the field coming together to celebrate people getting inducted. And in the inductee class were two women. That is more than usual. Now, about of the 15 inductees, that's not a lot. And I think finally the women are in double digits as opposed to the 900 men who are currently in right now. But we're making progress.
Hmm.
And one fun story that came out of the night was probably the most emotional. They had a special award. They usually have a special team award. And finally, a team that these ladies, oh, I hate to talk about their ages, but one of them was my coach at college at Lindenwood University. Her name is Debbie Washburn. Little did I even know as a college athlete that she was such a stud player because she'd never talked about it. She just played. And then she just coached us and she made us run a lot. And her team, which was an 89, 1900s kids, 1989, 1990, back to back over 30 cup champions. They won it back to back, which is more than qualifying to be recognized by the Hall of Fame, has been largely ignored. They faced things like getting missing, having flights delayed, sleeping on hotel lobby floors because their rooms were lost, and then getting up and playing 5 hours later. And many of them had children. So a team that definitely deserved recognition, but for years just had never gotten those votes to get in. And it really has it has less to do with the people who are in power saying, oh, they don't deserve it. And it has more to do with not enough voices at the table to say these people should be recognized. So we made a little bit of noise on the Soccer Mom Sunday podcast and got a little momentum going. And then other people spoke up. I'm certainly not a person who votes to get these people in, and they got recognized, Jake. And I got to tell you, all the inductees were had emotional moments, but the whole room stood, seeing kind of a justice finally done and the recognition finally done. So it's just one example of at a time where sometimes an injustice maybe is happening not because of intention, but because the right voices aren't at the table to say, what about these group of people? What about this? Um, Another example is just last week in Missouri with our Missouri High School Activities Association. So if you catch me saying Misha, we like to acronyms everything. Misha made the ruling, and it's a temporary rule, but they did it in time for girls soccer. Unlike other states, I think Missouri might be only one of seven where the girls and the boys play opposite seasons. The boys play fall, the girls play spring. In baseball, softball, the girls play spring and the boys play fall, or girls play fall, the boys play
Right.
spring. So what ends up happening, it's a legacy rule, is that girls in soccer inordinately, um, they have a problem. They are inordinately affected in a bad way by a rule that's just been around forever that nobody's questioned. And the rule was that if you are a club player, which many high school soccer players are, if you are a club player and you even attend one club practice when your high school goes into a tryout season, your high school will be disqualified. So that causes a lot of girls at this time of the year, when it's very high recruiting time with showcases and events. So here's your top club players who want to play high school but have this choice of, oh my gosh, I can't go to this showcase and then start my season because my high school can't have me or they're disqualified.
Right.
So it was wonderful. It doesn't solve every problem. It was wonderful to hear Misha come down and give the exception. There's an exception for a certain period of time that these club players can go play in that showcase, play in that Champions Cup. They still have to complete so many practices right before they still have to make the team. You don't get to not try out for high school. You still have to do your practices. But this exception was in the fall, and they had just never seen reason to give it in the spring until people made noise. And this wasn't just moms, it was dads too, who said, hey, they did a survey. And the survey, kudos to Misha for doing the survey. And the survey came back with like over 83% support of saying, yeah, let them go play in their things and let them join us and we'll hold them to the standard. Because of course, as a high school, you want your club players because they help me win state champions. They help your team work competitive. So I just wanted to call out those examples of kind of status quo thinking that might be in your program that you had nothing to do with, but didn't think to challenge it because you don't have those voices at your table and you don't think like that. I have another one to go on to. I wanted to get your quick thoughts on that because you were an AD once.
Once, yeah. Well, again, great stories, and we hope that there's a lot more of those out there in the other states. Talking about the eligibility one, every state, I think has their own unique flavor. In Florida, we're very fortunate. For us, soccer's a winter sport, and so the
Right.
boys and girls are playing at the same time. There's fewer. It seemed like as an AD, there were fewer club commitments, but you mentioned that word showcase, and I just shudder. I'm just going, oh my God,
Well, they were in
an,
Florida, Jake, so you know.
another showcase. But um, there was no policy like that from our state association. Maybe they recognized, how much, club soccer is a part of the culture. And I think at our schools, we were fortunate, not all the time, but the vast majority of the time, our kids did a great job of communicating with their high school coach. At my other school, at my last school in Tallahassee, we're a very successful program. Our head coach, our director of soccer, who was great, he's still at the school. He just won another state championship last weekend. Um, he ran one of the most successful clubs, and some of our kids, boys and girls, played for his club team. Some didn't, but he promoted the high school experience. I think sometimes to the detriment of his club experience. And again, he had one of the best clubs in the state. So anyway, it can be done. Um, on your Hall of Fame, great story. Again, you and I were
I'm sorry.
talking about, Title IX and
Yeah.
recognizing women. Um, it's a reality that when you look at the totality of sport, the women got started later than the men. It's not right, wrong, good or bad. Well, I guess it is kind of bad, but they just got started later. And so you have halls of fame. And I'll give an example. A college that I coached at in the 90s that you know about, Missouri Valley College. Um,
Oh, that
they've been
Missouri Valley. They were so
I
hard to
know
play.
that's a dirty name for you. They've been around for a long time, and so when they look at their Hall of Fame, which is 90% football and wrestling, well, those are going to be male athletes. And again, I don't want to piss off my Mo Valley fans who might be listening, but sometimes the criterion for getting inducted, well, he was a hardworking member of the 1962 football team. Was he all conference? Was he all American? Did he even start? Okay. But he's being nominated and brought in, and good for him. And yet, there's a certain team that won the 95, 96 outdoor track and field championships. We're not going to mention the coaches. Um, 12 of the current school records, current 30 years later, are held by members of those two teams. And I've submitted that team in nomination a couple of times, still waiting for, as you say, the people at the table to vote. We did get an individual athlete in 2 years ago, which is great. She holds four of those records herself. But you're right. Having that representation, which starts with, having coaches, having ADs, having administrators, or, having fans that want to call in and say, hey, these are deserving people. It's not a token. It's not, okay, we're going to let them in. No, hey, they've earned their way in. And that team,
Yeah.
boy, I've got to get in touch with some of those people to be guests on, this podcast and another podcast and let them share those stories. So absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing. What else do you got?
Yeah, no, that was just a great way to close because that actually leads into taking an active role. So as parents, I have a lot of guy friends who have girls, and they're like, "I'm a soccer dad," and I challenge them and say, "Okay, what does that mean to be a soccer dad?" Well, I love a kid. Like, what other go play her sports? And I'm like, do you watch the game with her? Do you know what are her like here in St. Louis? Everybody knows the Cardinals, right? We're a Cardinal baseball nation. I grew up knowing Ozzie Smith. I grew up knowing all the names on because my dad watched. And so sometimes when I talk to moms and dads, they want all this for their kids, but there's not an active role yet with their children. And so I want to call out one of my daughters. My youngest daughter is 9. She had a coach who each week sent out an email that just kind of was like, I really like what the girls did here. And he gave them an assignment. And he said, I want you to watch this NWSL game, which is kind of hard because you got to do it as a parent with them. But it made us sit down and watch with her and talk about that so she could learn. So, as a parent, now I'm a soccer person, right? But if you're not a soccer person and you've got, let's say, a soccer kid, or I'm not a wrestler and I've got a wrestler kid, do you know who their icons are? Do you know who they should look up to. I would argue that there are a lot of coaches in many different sports, especially if you're not coaching your own sport or if you're coaching the opposite gender. Like if you're a man coaching women, do you know who these girls should look up to? Right. So if I've got a winger on a soccer team and she's a girl and I'm a man, do I know who I want her playing like? Do I want her to be Tobin Heath for the US women's national team? Do I want her being like that? And so what I would say is that we cannot, as good as it is growing, I think we still need to challenge ourselves to take active roles in growing the game. And that means when I'm at a pub, you and I have met at our my local pub called Circle Seven. It is awesome anymore to not have to ask to put on women's games because they're on, and they're on not just one screen in the corner, they're on multiple, but also to engage my daughters and to talk to them about, do you see that game up there? Did you see that play? Did you look at that replay? Who is that player? And I think that we organically have that on the men and boys side. I grew up with that. I grew up listening to the radio with my dad. He had it on all the time. And I don't think it's there yet organically for our girls, sitting down with them, having it on, sitting down and talking about plays, learning about who their favorite players should be, knowing about where it came from. So I think too, as coaches, coaching, many times you'll find coaches coaching. I know several of them here who are boys coaches and they're the girls coaches because they're in opposite seasons. Um, but they'll know everybody that their boys should admire because they were a boy player at one point in time, but they don't know very much about the women's game. And it's like, who should your girls be looking at? Are you engaging them? Are you having them watch the game? So I think that that's one example of just maybe not only getting female perspectives, but actively engaging our girls in challenging and watching the game. And I will get pushback occasionally, Jake, when I see this, like, oh, girls aren't interested in watching. I submit that that's not true. I submit that it has not been a part of households the way it is getting up if you're a soccer family and turning on the EPL and having that on all day long, or being a baseball fan and you go watch back-to-back Major League Baseball games. I would argue that if you did that same thing in your households, and it can be still a little harder because women's sports are still a little harder to access. But if you can do that and you engage them young, I wouldn't be surprised if their eyes start turning towards the game and turning towards possibility organically, just like our boys. And just to wrap it up, I think one of the biggest pushes for women and girls in sports and Women's History Month is a great little ad I saw. Can't remember the content creator, but said, the ultimate is for none of us to be have to be exceptional to be recognized, like to have the same standards, to be not to be more exceptional than our male counterparts, not to be the first anymore or the only, but to eventually be one of many, so that it's not, this month for St. Louis City, we're bringing in women for Women's History Month and talking about how, oh, this person is the only female coach in the men's, and this is the only female doing this. And that's cool. And we should honor that. But remember, our goal is to eventually make it so it's just one of many. It's just another interview that doesn't have to occur in March for Women's History Month because it occur all the other 11 months of the year. And so those are the things I wanted to talk about. And I hope that that helps.
Oh, absolutely. And that's such a great point that we keep having, we're celebrating, and rightfully so, all of these firsts. Well, hopefully we're just celebrating excellence at some point, and it's no longer, a famous first. Great stuff. Let's go and talk a little bit about you for our listeners. You've got again, you work with teams, you work with individual athletes, you work with coaches on mindset. You host your own multiple podcasts. If our listeners want more, listeners, you have a tremendous resource here. You really need to reach out to Jen. She's active on social media, et cetera. But Jen, how can they connect with you and add you to their network so they can find out more?
Yeah, a couple of ways. So I'll be really honest with everybody. You and I have talked about the mindset business in the past, and you've had on great guests. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've been so busy on the broadcast side that I've had less time for the mindset portion. But of course, always willing to work with players, particularly youth athletes, the younger ones, if they need help there. But I did change my handles. So you'll find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as at Jen Siess on air. So it's JenSiess on air. And then the Soccer Mom Sunday podcast can just literally be found with a search there, where we highlight the female perspective in the game. By the way, we have had males on. There have been coaches, male coaches of women, many of them who the women who were inducted recently, that team were championed by two men who took a team and coached them when there nobody else was interested. And so our we honor our male allies as well. So those are the places you can find me, and hopefully there will be more to come.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing all of those stories, and we're going to continue to come back to you so we can, get your take on all things athletics and whether it's men or women. Um, Once again, for listeners, we appreciate you every week, and just remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this segment every single week and just about every day. We try to share stories from the world of athletics. So come back and join us again on the next episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. Before we go, we do want to thank all of our sponsors. Again, these are companies I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should be using them too. Let's go and call them out in order. Gipper, start creating world-class content for your school social media channel. Go to gipper.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, take a look at their touchscreen consoles for school record board use or your Hall of Fame. It's vitalsignswalloffame.com. You need to check out the Snap platform. It's not just fundraising. Go to snapraise.com. Huddle, you've heard me say before, I used it as a football coach, as an AD. We were a huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Athletic surveys, if you want to take the pulse of everybody in your program, let athleticsurveys.com create a custom survey for you and your school. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our indoor score table by Sideline Interactive. Home Campus, it's a platform you're going to use every single day. Go to homecampus.com. Ohio University's online masters. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program. Check them out, Ohio University. And Hometown. It's not just online ticketing anymore. Check out all the things that the Hometown platform can do for you. And let's give a shout out to K-12 Sports Tech. Join their AD think tank. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.